This episode is brought to you by Power Monkey Camp. Now, when we talk about things like life-changing events, I have to say that Power Monkey Camp has absolutely been one of those for me, for my wife, for my family, as well as for many of our staff and coaches who continue to come back to be with us for our full week-long adult fitness camp in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. I can't believe it, but we are on our 10th year anniversary this year in 2023. We have two incredible camps lined up, one April 30th to May 6th, and then our 20th is going to be September 24th to September 30th. The spots are going quickly, and we anticipate being sold out for both of them. So if you are interested, please check out powermonkeycamp.com and try to reserve one of those last spots if you want to hang out with us for that week. Now, the information is vast. You're going to be in sessions with some of the most incredible experts in their fields, learning about incredible topics and being able to dive pretty deeply, much more deeply than you would if you were in a day or a weekend session. But beyond the incredible information that's going to be top-notch, camp is an experience. It's one of those things that will change your lives. You'll meet people from around the world and become close friends and family with people that you didn't even know were in the space. I guarantee you it's going to be worth the time. And especially this being our 10-year anniversary, we have some really special things planned, and we hope that you can all be out with us. Many of those return campers who are listening right now, we can't wait to see you. And for those of you who are on the fence, please sign up. It'll be worth your time. Check out powermonkeycamp.com for more information. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Mike Service. And on today's episode, we have an absolute legend from the hand balancing handstand world, an area that's really close and near and dear to my heart, someone that I consider to be a mentor when it comes to improving handstand technique, the man himself, Yuval Ayalon. Yuval, I've actually known him since I was in high school. He was a competitive gymnast for the University of Illinois when I was seeking out universities to compete for, and he was one of the top gymnasts in the country then, and has gone on to do incredible things, not only in the gymnastics world, but then in the performance world, having done a lot of things out in Las Vegas, one of the great performers in the emerging circus art space, and now being one of the premier and go-to resources when it comes to handstand performance, handstand learning. He is an absolute just legend in this space, someone that I said I go to as a coaching resource, someone that I look up to help me with my methods and the way that I train as well. And I hope that he has some nuggets in here that are helpful for you as well along your handstand journey. Enjoy. Well, Yuval, thank you so much for being with us today. It's an honor to have you on with your background and how long ago we first met. It's an honor to be able to reconnect and say hello, even if it's a virtual connect. But how you doing, man? It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm good. Very good.
Excellent. So I was just thinking back, we were chatting a little bit about, coming from the artistic gymnastics world. And the first time that I officially remember meeting you was in 1997. I was a recruit coming on my recruiting trips to different schools. And, I took my recruiting trip to the University of Michigan and Oklahoma and Stanford, and University of Illinois was one of my recruiting trips. And I think you were a senior that year. And you guys were awesome. You guys had a really strong team with Travis and a bunch of the other Leo, and you guys had a great team back then. And I just remember you being one of the beasts of the NCAA collegiate scene back in the day. Do you have fond memories of competing collegiately? Because I think most people would say that's kind of a highlight of their competitive career. I'm just curious, coming from the other side of the world to come and compete in the U.S. in a location like Champaign, Illinois, where it's freezing cold, whether or not that was a memory that you remember as being a fond one.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I finished my career in college. So it was kind of like the peak and the end of my career as a gymnast. Like we were a bunch of other Israelis at the time that applied and competed in college. Some of them were in Temple, in Syracuse, in Penn State, and I was in Illinois. And generations before me, there was one guy in Fullerton, Amir Kaduri, an old school guy, and then one in Iowa. And yeah, so we were kind of during our army service in Israel, between the age of 18 to 21, we started to apply to different colleges, which is an amazing opportunity, both to receive education and to do what we love, you know, like compete gymnastics and in the NCAA. So it was, you know, one of the dreams at the time. You know, it was also during that time, it was also my kind of international peak of my career around 96. So it was an interesting time, and I think that the 4 years in college with the intense competition season was very different than what I was doing before that. So I think it was overall a really great experience.
Did you have any hopes or dreams to continue to compete internationally for Israel, to potentially, you know, the Olympic Games
Yeah,
were
I mean, you know, like all of
probably,
us, we from
yeah,
the age of 10, we wanted to go to the Olympics. So you know, that was the big one. You know, the one that was I was aiming for, that had a chance, was the 98 one, 98 Olympics.
96, 96?
And sorry, the 2000.
Sydney, okay.
Yeah, 96, I was already in the middle of collegiate career, and it didn't work. But like unfortunately, like in 98, the last competition season in Illinois, I had competition season, and I somehow went through the whole competition season, managed to compete all around in the last regionals and nationals. But after that, I realized that there was no way I would be able to continue with the intensity of preparing for the Olympics for 2 more years. And then it was kind of like, I remember landing in the parallel bars, the last competition in the finals, in nationals, and I realized that my career was over. So it was like a very strong moment, and you know, a difficult moment, but it was kind of like a realistic way to look at it, and you know, led me to other places.
Yeah, and that's an interesting
So
piece. We've talked a lot about this with other athletes that have performed at a high level. This idea of your identity being associated with being an athlete, and once that career is over, what do? Sometimes it's very difficult to be able to move on to that next stage, having always identified as a high level athlete. Now,
yeah, completely.
sometimes when you're a collegiate level athlete, you have, an education, and then it helps you kind of figure out a career path. But if you want to stay within the sport, especially in gymnastics, there's a couple different areas that you can get into, right? You can go into stunts, you can potentially open up a gym and continue to coach, or you can do the area of expertise that you chose, which many gymnasts who have that urge of not just competing, but performing still want to do. And you went to the circus.
Yeah.
Did you go straight from college, and what was that transition like for you when you went into the performing arts and the circus world?
No, so yeah, so after that competition, you know, the last competition, I realized it's over, and you know, the last thing I wanted to do was to go anywhere close to that, because my body was broken, kind of. That's what I felt at the
Yeah.
time. And you know, I got a degree in communications, and I said, okay, I'm gonna get a regular job, and you know, find my new path, you know, after my whole gymnastics career and everything. And I tried for a few years, for two years in the US, and then in Israel, and you know, some high-tech companies doing the corporate thing, and luckily it didn't work out. It just it wasn't a place that I excelled in, and I didn't like what I was doing. And so it was kind of like a 3 years transition where I was stubborn, I was trying, but it didn't work out. And then eventually you know, I kind of went to travel a little bit in India, and where I chose to go. And when I came back, you know, I didn't come back with any answers, but the one thing I applied was I did not go back to to anything related to the office or things that are not, and basically started exploring my physical ability again. And early on, I started teaching an acrobatic class in Tel Aviv, for people that are not athletes, so dancers, circus artists, or whatever, kind of open gym kind of a thing, in like early 2002. And one of the first thing that you teach in acrobatic class is handstand. And this is where it kind of sparked my interest. So I started, teaching handstand, and then someone showed me a video of some circus cabaret, some guy doing one-arm handstand. I was like, what is this? Because as a gymnast, it's not a thing. And so out of curiosity, I kind of like tried to figure out through just watching videos how to hold a one-arm handstand. And interestingly, it took me about 2-3 weeks with playing with it to get a basic hold of one-arm handstand.
2-3 weeks. That's ridiculous. That's
yeah, no, but when you think about it as a gymnast, you already have your 10,000 hours on your hands. Okay, so you analyze the skill like as a gymnastic skill, and you can figure out with the strength that you have, with a good stability on your hands, you shift your weight, you counterbalance, and you kind of figure things out. It wasn't, I have pictures of this handstand. It's nothing close to what I'm doing now, but I was kind of able to get a basic understanding of the game. And this led me afterwards to search for a proper, like a handstand teacher who like I found this French guy, Claude Victoria, who taught some other hand balancers that I really liked in Canada. And my meeting with him, I stayed with him in his home for a week, and trained all day with him. And he gave me kind of a map, basically. This is hand balancing. This is how the positions should look like. This is how you should practice. And since that meeting with him in 2004, I'm basically applying what I learned with him and developing my own handstand through practice. I don't really have a coach.
So I want to spend a little bit more time on Claude Victoria, because he seems to be this like mythical figure in the handstand world, with many of the high-level handstand performers having credited him with, the techniques that they use, yourself being one, as well as many, many others. And I'm curious what the experience was like for you, because every time I see a post about him, or listening to you speak about him in previous posts or writings, there's almost like a level of paying homage to someone that led the path or created a way for the next generation to be able to seek out this handstand journey that he created. And I know that he had a coach himself that he learned from, but can you tell me a little bit more about what it was like to train with him, and what his mindset and methodology was that kind of you gravitated towards, that really stood out for you?
Yes. So again, I reached out to him. Had no idea about the guy. I just read in the bio on a website of a hand balancer, a Canadian hand balancer who was in Cirque du Soleil before, and he mentioned that he studied under the legendary hand balancing master Claude Victoria. And I was like, this was pre-YouTube, pre-everything. So I had to I looked and I found another person who studied with him, and I sent through her a letter to Claude with some photos of me doing a handstand, and asked if he can invite me for a stage. And he said, yeah, come over. So I learned 100 words in French and, numbers, shoulder, head, like just basic stuff to communicate. And went to spend a week with him, and kind of like, this romantic going to the to this coach in his little village in eastern France, and he cooked 3 meals a day, and you basically train in the living room, and he's just standing there and giving you cues, and for me it was like it's very similar to kind of the beginning of gymnastics career, where you spend time with your coach and getting cues, and nothing too complicated, and not a lot of theory, just a lot of no, you breathe like this and stand like this and do it very accurate and repeat it correctly, very, very simple. Like I can't, nothing that I teach, that I use today in my workshop as a teacher, I don't use his like methodologies or techniques, because we barely spoke. It was very physical, and they come, no, it's like this, and position the hips over here, and look at the, very simple stuff, and attention to details, and always focus on technique rather than on, pushing it through, so I really like that approach as well. We didn't do any conditioning, he had like this yoga warm-up that he did on the side, and we just prepared ourselves for handstand, and then did 2.5 hours of handstand sets, and then rested, and then in the afternoon repeat that another 2 hours while he was cooking dinner on the side. So it was really very, very simple. It doesn't it really fit me at the time, what I needed, because I didn't need to develop any flexibility, any strength. He had he changed maybe a little thing in my handstand. He asked me to take the head out a little more than I used to do as a gymnast, which is how I stand today. And it was interesting for me to, I had a little resistance, of course, because I've been doing things my way for many years. But then I kind of let go of that, and went along with him, and this is how I also work today. And it's interesting, but I felt like I was processing this week with him for the next 10 years, and in a way until today. So it's nice. It's nice for me to continue kind of in the same approach and method towards developing my hand balancing.
It is super, I think romantic is the word you used initially, because I think a lot of people look at that as almost like a movie. You move to another country, and you stay with this master, and he teaches you everything that he knows, and you become a master yourself because of it. There is a lot of romanticism associated with that type of
completely.
Yeah,
And
it's a beautiful
like
story.
just I like the like his living room was full of pictures of his students, so basically, like in every position I was working on, like, okay, this is how I want my small straddle one-arm handstand to look like, kind of a signature. And they all have kind of like very similar style to how he teaches. So it's kind of like a signature, and in a way, this is what these pictures, I still, I took photos of all these pictures, and I still have these pictures. So, and some of the people I met over the years. So it's interesting, kind of like, and it's similar also to, you grow up looking at, videos of Dmitry Bulozerchev or whatever, and then suddenly you meet him in a competition or in the end of his career and it's like, it put things together.
Oh yeah.
So and as a kid, it's very similar. I had these posters of all these, Vladimir Artyomov and Yuri Korolev and Bulozerchev and all these guys, happened to be Russian.
The 88 Olympic Russian team, they were all probably
the
the biggest.
88. I had like big VHS cassettes of the 1985 World Championships in Montreal, which I went over and over until so it was that back in the day, this was the only source of inspiration we had, aside from the people that that were training at the gym, the older generations, and where today, you know, everything is on Instagram, all the new tricks, all the, you know, you don't need to go far to go there, you know.
So,
So I really, and this is the maybe going away from Claude, but in general, like I feel really privileged to be able to still practice in a very similar way that I practiced as a kid, as a gymnast, you know, putting aside the competitive aspect of it, you know, this pure going to the gym, doing something that you love with all your heart. You know,
I
this
love
is
that.
how gymnasts, I mean, I'm sure I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't know top level gymnasts that did not share this experience.
Without a doubt. Without a
You
doubt. You know,
know, so, yeah.
especially the ones that are doing fitness or handstands are still involved to it at this level as we age. There's a love. It's a part of who you are, right? It's just
Yeah.
you can't separate the two. You know, being inverted is a part of who we are essentially. But what's been interesting for us and Mike as well, and he can talk about it from the weightlifting side, the emergence of CrossFit and functional fitness has given gymnasts and weightlifters the ability to expose our love and passion to a whole new group of people. You know, people that didn't grow up with gymnastics and are now interested in their 40s at getting upside down for the first time or getting on rings. And it's really, you know, it's created an opportunity for us to have careers for ourselves in the areas that we love. And there was still this segment of the population that was always looking at it like, oh my God, what are they doing on the rings? And I look at those handstand positions, they're terrible. And we've always taken the approach of that's an opportunity to help someone. That's an opportunity for another person that's fallen in love with our sport to be able to help them get just a little bit better and to find a love for it in them in the way that they do it. I'm curious from your perspective, because you're so pure in the way that you do it, and your background is such that it probably doesn't lend itself to doing something like a crazy CrossFit workout. If you how you view that community, how you view this fitness community that is trying to do handstands in push-ups, walking, whatever it might be, but is completely separated from the world that you come from with gymnastics and hand balancing.
Um, so, so I kind of I work with everyone. So you know, a big chunk of you know, whether the yoga community, the CrossFit community, the movement community, and then now there is basically a handstand community. So people that are just interested in the thing itself, and kind of are drawn to my workshops or what I do. Yeah, so like I approach it, I approach it very similar to all these audiences. So sometimes it's very interesting to, you know, trying to figure out, you know, from the hypermobile yoga community to the stiff shoulders CrossFit community, you know, trying to find how I can help both to achieve a good handstand, you know, and what they need in order to improve. So like, for example, a yogi typically would have to improve the stability of the shoulders and strength issues, while the CrossFitter, the average CrossFitter, will have to improve their thoracic and shoulder mobility, which makes it more difficult to do the same skill. Okay, so in my workshop, I don't focus neither so much on strength or flexibility. I'm focusing more on technique and efficiency, trying to kind of like figure out how I can help people in their current mobility or ability to do the same skill relatively at ease. And then in a long-term approach, kind of, okay, if you want to improve your shoulder mobility, you have to put some time specifically into it, aside from continuing to work on the handstand, which will be part of the process as well. practices in my case.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead, finish up.
Yeah, so I'm not, maybe I'm not answering your question. I don't have that much experience specifically with the CrossFit community, although many people who do CrossFit have come to my workshops. But it's very far from a CrossFit setting or type of practice. You know, I always joke, like, my workshops are not difficult. You know, like I have people like in their 50s and 60s doing intensives with me, doing handstand for 6 hours a day, and I'm able to allow them to help them to go through that without, you know, losing the energy, because I mean, 30 hours, you know, it's quite intense, but the approach is more technique based and efficiency, and not developing of strength or endurance, and this will be a side effect in the long run if you practice consistently.
Now I'm
Yuval,
gonna let Mike
if I
jump in
wasn't,
here.
yeah, if I wasn't already signed up for your workshop in Berlin this weekend, you would have just talked me into it already, because Dave and Jordan will laugh. I avoided all opportunity overly strenuous activity, but I love very focused technical activities. So for me, having been a weightlifter my entire life, and it's a very monotonous and technical sport in itself, with just, you know, two expressive movements. Handstands have gotten very interesting for me, and it was in probably two different ways. It was fun for me just to hear you explain all of that right now, because so much of what you say brings back a lot of memories of my like childhood as a weightlifter, and different my own little exodus journeys, going to study from other coaches and other athletes, and things like that. But then listening, and I'm excited to get more into some of your teaching methods and how you think through things, but hearing how you describe what you're looking at in something, let's say, as simple as a more yoga specific body or mover versus a CrossFit body or mover, finding the ability to, yeah, get simple, I guess. And that's a lot of times with Dave and I both, yeah, we're definitely more involved in the CrossFit community, but even in there's so many different prototypes of movers, and they're always thinking that we're going to make it maybe more complex than what it is. And we're so many times rewinding things back over years and years and years of our own practices, of saying, like, here are the simple pieces that we need to work on. And then as you understand these, then you can put in the extra work, whether it be for strength and stability, for positions or mobility. But basically,
totally, you know, yeah. Yeah, usually what happens, like people that are strong on the stronger side, they just rely on the strength, you know, so that's the first place they go. They just, you know, lean a little forward with their shoulders and do a, you know, a mini planche and hold the handstand. So it works. But it has a limit to it, of course, especially when you go for the one arm or stuff like that, or if you need to hold it for a minute or two. You know, so going there and figuring out how to, this is also why I enjoy teaching so much in the context of, you know, non-professional hand balancers, because most of the people in my workshop are not gonna go to a Cirque du Soleil stage. You know, they're just doing it because they love the specific handstand and want to take it forward, you know, and trying to hack that and trying to see, okay, you know, you can't open your shoulders, but how can I help you to still do a straight handstand? So, okay, so maybe lift up the upper thoracic spine, you know, extend a little bit. So instead of opening the shoulders, because if they don't open, you can't open them. You know, so you need to find this little compromise. It's not going to be a perfect handstand, but it's going to be a functional handstand that you can even do a one-arm handstand with. You don't need to have a perfect handstand line like a Chinese gymnast to do a one-arm handstand. You just need to do a good handstand, you know. So So, it's always this kind of trying to figure out it's interesting because when I started teaching handstand, I kind of showed up in Europe and like, okay, I'm teaching workshops, and I never really had experience as a teacher or as a coach. I never thought I'm gonna go that direction of gymnastics coach, or it didn't come to my mind. But so just being open and looking at people with different limitations and trying to figure out on the spot how to help them also developed a lot of the approach I take today when I teach handstand specifically. So yeah, so you'll see it this weekend, hopefully.
Don't embarrass us, Mike. Do not embarrass us.
I'm
all
sure,
right.
I'm sure
I
you'll
won't.
be fine.
And Dave, I'll let you go from here, but I just wanted to kind of rephrase or not even rephrase, but highlight what you just said, Yuval. And I find that so valuable is when somebody's trying to learn a skill or improve in a skill, they don't necessarily need to be perfect. They need to be functional, but sometimes to even get functional, you have to understand maybe the most virtuous or highest end of that skill. Like, what does the most perfect visualization or practice of that skill look like? And then from there, how can I get as close to that as possible? And, we're all on this spectrum somewhere, no matter what the movement is of what we're capable of, where we currently are. And yeah, it sounds like you're hyper aware of that with people, probably from your, your own journey.
It's a little frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Want to say that again, Mike?
Oh yeah, I was just saying, Yuval, the idea of how you're taking somebody and trying to get them maybe to be functional within something like a handstand, whereas I can apply that to an Olympic lift, like a snatch or a clean and jerk. Sometimes to get to your best personal position or your best expression of that skill, you still need to know what perfection or what approaching perfection looks like. And then from there, how can you start to build towards that? And just from what you were saying, it sounds like that's ultimately a goal for you is to get somebody functional, but at their highest level of functionality.
Just an example, since he's his expertise is weightlifting. So when I have like accessible, when I do a workshop in a CrossFit or a place that has equipment, I often take the analogy. I take a barbell and have the people bring it overhead with the legs together, and feel the bar above the feet. And this is the vertical. So if you can align your body in a way so you can just hold the bar above you without gripping it, this is it. Okay, so this is the basic efficient position that's relevant for weightlifting, but also exactly what you want to aim for when you do a handstand. So like taking these little analogies from different disciplines for a specific crowd can often help communicate the message, the basic kind of like the line that goes through the feet, the hips, the shoulders, and the hands. This is it.
Now, Yuval, I want the listeners out there to get an appreciation for how badass you are with some of your handstand stuff. I'm sure you have some of these things, but for you, what's the most impressive or the highest level thing that you did as a handstand performer that you're really proud of? Was it a length of time, a particular position that you were able to achieve? What was something with the handstand post-gymnastics career that you're like, I can't believe I was able to do that? That was something I was able to check off that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, so it's interesting because, like I had my, kind of my 40-year-old midlife crisis challenge that I did.
What was that?
It was the last day, like last week of my performance in the show before I left Vegas. And it was a month before my 40th birthday. So for 3 months, I aimed at this set I call the 40 set.
I've
which
seen this,
included,
yes.
yeah, so basically 10 Stalders, 10 handstand push-ups, 10 pike presses, and 10 straddle presses. And I worked for it for a while, and I was able to kind of do it, you know. The last one I was basically, I tried, it took me like 3 times to do it. And the first 2 times I failed, my body just failed around the 36, 37. Just no, body was not reacting. So, you know, one of the most extreme things I've done, like to reach the level, like I maxed out, you know. And
So let's give the listeners an appreciation for what that was. So 40 reps of particular movements. You did 4 different exercises, 10 of each. The first was a Stalder press. So hands on the ground, starting in a straddle L, and you press all the way up to handstand without your feet touching the ground, coming back down to that same position on every rep.
yeah, yeah.
Super difficult, especially with hands flat down on the ground. Then 2 handstand push-ups. CrossFitters know that movement very well. Touching head on the ground and then coming back up with control. So freestanding handstand push-up. 3 pike press, correct?
Yeah.
Pike press, just touching the ground. So you didn't come down at all on any of this.
No leaning. So just kind of tapping the ground with my
toes.
And then,
so 10 pikes and then 10 straddle presses.
Yeah.
40 reps in a row without coming out of the handstand.
And it took me about 3 minutes, 3 minutes and 20 seconds to complete it. So just you know, just holding 3 minutes is easy. But you know, so yeah, I don't know, kind of like I prepared for it, you know. I broke it down, and progressively I worked on my flexibility also, the middle splits and the forward bend and the straddle pancake, just to be at the best possible optimal mobility for specifically for these skills, for the Stalder especially, and for the presses. And started with 5, 5, 5, and 5, kind of like the basics, and then did 10 separately, each one of them. So worked up towards 10 Stalders, 10 handstand push-ups separately, and then started adding. So 5, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, 6, 6, 7, 7, 7, 7. I reached 8, and then afterwards I say, okay, I'm tired of this. I need to go for it. So it was too. It was, you know, and I was still performing 10 shows a week at the time, you know. So I was, you know, usually my training for that was, you know, after I finished my second show around 11 p.m. So I kind of like did my reps and broke it down. So it was a fun experience to do it, and I don't think I would do it again. Last week I did the 20 set, so half of it, just to see where I'm at. So I'm okay still, but
I bet you surprise yourself. But did I hear you correctly that you would train after your shows at 11 o'clock? That's when you would do your training?
Yeah, because, you know, like when you perform, you need to be at your best. Like, you know, you can't be tired or exhausted while you perform, and you need to trust yourself, and other people need to trust you, you know. So a lot of the time is working with other people and going to heights, and you know, you just don't want to take chances. So I kind of like, in the end of the day, I took an extra 20 minutes to prepare to work on it. It took about a month and a half, 2 months before the end. So that's when I decided to go for it. So it was a really fun challenge. And a year after I moved to Europe, I did 10 minutes on shifting from right to left. So one arm, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, going back and forth. So that was like a goal I aimed for. But
that's been my goal for a long time. And actually, you had reached out to me a few years ago. I think I posted I was increasing, and
2 arms is more challenging than 1 arm.
Yeah, that was your suggestion. So I finally made it over 9 minutes
Yeah.
with the two arms. I'm over 9 minutes with two arms. But when I was increasing, you had reached out and said, Dave, you have to work on one arm handstands. You're gonna make this much easier on yourself by working on one arms. And from a gymnastics perspective, it's like you said, it's foreign to us. So it wasn't something that I was super
Yeah.
proficient at. And so I took your advice and started working, and then baby number one hit, and my training kind of went out the window with being very, strategic with it and being able to put in the number of hours that was necessary. But that one arm handstand seems to be a critical component to be able to do handstands for duration, 10 minutes plus.
Yeah, I know some guys who reached 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and 1 hour in this type of endurance, which is, usually, they're younger, they, in their peak, in their 20s, early 20s. That's when they do it, in the end of their school. And then by the time, and then you finished your formation as a circus artist, you are a master. That's it. And if like even with the 10 minutes that I did, it was very interesting sensation. It's you are fatigued after 5 minutes, and at some point you stop thinking, and the body finds the easy place, or the place to be where it's the most efficient. So you stop thinking about technique or pushing. You just, okay, how can I go to this efficient place, which is typical for endurance sports. I think that's all that's the closest I get to endurance. But that's where an interesting part of the experience. So when I do endurance work today, I don't see it as an endurance work. I see it as a work on efficiency. Or technical endurance, whatever you want to call it.
That makes total sense to me. The way that I kind of describe it is it's about conservation of energy, right? It's about trying to get to a position where only the muscles that are necessary to keep you inverted are being engaged. And so it gives yourself a chance to rest in particular positions, whether that's in the forearms, through the grip, through fingertip engagement. You want only what's necessary to keep you upside down to be engaged at any one moment. So you almost think about each muscle fiber firing at a time when you get to that point. Like, how can I take some stress off of this and put it into that, and kind of, give yourself a chance to shift that stress as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, and so I mix it. So the majority of my practice, if today I worked out like I practiced 2 hours this morning. So the majority of the practice is very, I'm there, and attention to detail and technique, and every position has its place, and I try to focus on that, while I'm doing it. And then when I work on whether it's strength work or endurance, for that matter, then it's kind of like, okay, just efficiency, and breathe, and just try to find the most comfortable position, and the time passes. Rather than thinking about, oh, I have 30 seconds left until the telephone beeps, just think about 10 seconds at a time, how to make it easier all the time.
Interesting.
And this is kind of like the approach I take towards building endurance.
Now, I want to go over, we have 15 minutes or so left, so we don't keep you too long, but I want to talk about some of the technical aspects, because I think this would be valuable, and to hear your perspective. And before we get into specific on the technique, you speak a lot about preparation, 2-hour sessions. I'm sure a good amount of time of that is warming up. And with the audience that we work with a lot, CrossFitters and people who didn't grow up with it, wrist issues is a big component that we need to impress on them. Preparing the wrists, making sure that, not only from a positional standpoint, there's value there, but also for being able to do long handstands and to be able to do 2-hour, 6-hour sessions, 30 hours over the course of the week, that you need to spend time on it. How much of an emphasis do you put on wrist preparation when you're working with an athlete? And are there a couple of go-to exercises that you really like to utilize when it comes to just your own training?
Well, I'm not sure you're going to like the answer, but I don't focus so much on wrist preparation in my workshop. I do prepare my wrist every day. But I think the biggest problem with assuming there is average wrist mobility, the ability to do like a 90-degree angle in a push-up position. So if the person can do that, you know, they have enough wrist mobility for a basic handstand. The majority of the problem that people have, hand balancers or people who practice handstand have, is you know, the repetitive nature of this practice. In order to learn handstand, you need to do a lot of repetition. But if you repeat it in an incorrect position, then you put your body through unnecessary stress, which leads to injury. Shoulder, wrist, usually, in the context of handstand. So the I think the approach I take is you know, adaptation to handstand by doing handstand correctly.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you know, so it's more about like education of how to practice handstand. So if you you know, if you constantly do a plunge every time you do a handstand and grip the ground and squeeze and use wrist strength every given moment while you're in your hands, your wrists are not gonna, you're gonna finish with your forearms will be on fire and your fingers are working and everything. You know, like a good handstand practice, 3 hours, you should not feel your wrists are challenged in a good, if you practice correctly. And this is like, you know, one of the biggest challenges. You know, I work with people in my intensive, like I said, 30 hours of handstand. The majority of every practice, it's at least 2 hours of handstand drills. And if I'm able to have them finish the week and can still do handstand, I mean, for me, it's a good indication that I led the workshop in a good way, and hopefully gave them good tools to develop their handstand further through good technique.
Love that.
Okay,
Love that.
so you know, I have my you know, you're going to, Michael, you're going to see my workshop. I am going to do some, you know, wrist preparation, but it's very gentle and very basic, and the majority of the time I said, okay, just don't put stress on the wrist, unnecessary stress if you don't need, you know. So the, you know, so in the past I've heard some, you know, there's mixed messages. You have to, you know, strengthen and create like really strong wrist for handstand and really mobile and all that stuff. But yeah, the result is I have decent strength in my, but it's not because of that you get healthy wrist in the context of handstand if you practice handstand as a specialist. You know, I'm talking about people who do 2 hours a day of handstand. Okay, this is kind of like, I don't know if your crowd does that, or this is, you know, they have other things that they've developed. So, you know, and I don't promote handstand as the holy grail of whatever. I do it because that's what I do, you know, and that's my thing. But if you practice handstand, I think the best investment is correct technique and good foundation from the start, and then take your time, develop your capacity.
I think I heard you saying there, you were asking whether or not our community spends 2 hours a day on their handstands. I'm going to go ahead and say no. It doesn't happen very often, right? I mean, CrossFitters in general, functional fitness, this world that we help out, there's so many things that they're trying to become proficient at, that, you know, the amount of time, they're bite-sized chunks. You know, we try to maximum benefit in shortest amount of time so that they can actually understand the importance of technique, implement, be efficient, while still being able to get on their runner, work on their rope climbs, work on their Olympic barbell movements, and do all these other things that they're trying to be proficient at.
You know, usually people ask me, so how much should I practice? So I give them, like, the most important thing for me is consistency of practice. So it could be 20 minutes a day, you know, but do it right, 20 minutes a day consistently, 5 days a week. You know, that will give you more benefit than, you know, going strong for 2 hours once a week.
Absolutely. And I love that. And that was one of the things I really noticed when you were helping me out with some of my one-arm work. The programming that you gave me was nothing crazy, you know, fairly like 3-4 exercises,
Mhm.
20 minutes to half an hour, very focused on what the position, what the intention was, making sure that every turn really counted and mattered, and then be consistent with it. Try to do it five plus days a week so that your body can become more accustomed to the movement patterns more than anything else. So I think that's a really important take home point here, is that you probably don't need to spend 2 hours a day if the
Yeah.
training is focused and the intention is appropriate with each of the turns that you take.
Yeah, but that said, if you are interested, if you don't come from your extensive gymnastics background and you want to go for a skill like a one-arm handstand, which is kind of like what I aim at, you know, that's the high-level hand balancing that I teach. Then we're going into 2 hours a day, and there's no other way around it, you know, for people who are non-acrobats or non-gymnasts. So yeah, you basically need to specialize, and it's a choice you make, you know. One-arm handstand is not functional for life, you know. It's a trick. It's a gymnastics. It's a circus trick that offers like a, you know, you can really go very deep in developing yourself and what you need to go through in order to get it. That's what you get out of it. The actual physical feat itself, you know, it's yeah, it's not easy, but it's doable. And I have, you know, students in their today, it's amazing, people in their 50s that are going for their one arms, you know. It's amazing. People that have no athletic background, you know, that's their thing, and they just devote their time into it. So it's definitely possible. I'm not, you know, like I'm not against, of course, CrossFit, and you know, it's just there's so much, and it's so wide ranged, you know. I still, you know, I do twice a week. I have my ring routine that I do, and some pulling strength, and you know, and then I add some specific handstand specific strength work and stuff like that. But it's also directed towards what I do and towards maintaining as I going to my 50s next year, you know, like but one of the biggest challenge is to maintain, you know, to still perform in a high level and accept your age, and knowing, you know, where to push and where not to push, and making choices, you know, of what to do. And I'm sure, you know, it's also something that you're thinking about, you know, how many years you can do it and still learn new things, you know, and enjoy it, and
Absolutely.
not be injured and all that stuff. Well, it's a reality of it, you know. So
Absolutely. I have another technical question for you.
And by the way, I'm not in a
You
hurry,
mentioned
so
it
if
a
you
little
want
bit.
to if you want to continue a little longer, I'm
All
fine.
right. Well, then be prepared for a handstand long session here, because I have a lot more questions. Now,
my
it's
sessions
about
are long, man.
It's about breathing, because you know, you mentioned a little bit breathing there. It's one of the things that comes up a lot when I'm teaching. Most people who are new to it are holding their breath, and that dictates the length of their handstand, the duration of their handstand is holding their breath. But I was reading when you wrote a little note on Facebook a long time ago, paying homage to Claude, him expressing some thoughts about breathing as well, and specifically about nasal breathing as being the preferred method to be thought of, not even maybe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Is there a specific reason behind just nasal breathing? What are your thoughts, and how do you try to implement it with people you work with?
So I'm not like I try to, if my nose is clear, I'll breathe from my nose. You know, it's more, what's important is it should be relaxed and shallow breathing. Okay, so the state of mind should be relaxed. You're not under stress. you know, so often the way you breathe also related to the, you know, the stress you're under. Okay, so you want to be focused on technique, and you like also you don't want heavy breathing. So if you fill up your lung with air, then it affects your thoracic cage, and then it affects the balance. So usually it's breathing from the belly, you know, very shallow and relaxed breathing. So this is the focus. And then, you know, whether it's from the nose, from the mouth, what's important is continuous breathing without effort. So no drama, no like, you know, no, you know, often I joke about it, you know, people who come from yoga or whatever, suddenly there's someone who's doing a heavy breathing and kind of systematic breathing. It's like, no.
Yeah.
There is place for that in a breathing exercise, but when you do handstand, it should be like a very, you shouldn't think about this. You should continuously breathe and not. The biggest problem usually, like you said, people hold their breath. So first of all, realizing that they're holding their breath, they associate the handstand with a high intensity short activity where it's okay to hold your breath maybe momentarily. But then suddenly they're like 20 seconds in apnea, and then they start, you know, they're red and all that stuff. So it just doesn't work. So and in handstand, as opposed to gymnastics, like in the context of handstand, in gymnastics you hold it, you usually go through handstand or maybe hold it for 2 seconds. In handstand you want to be able to hold it for 2 minutes. So it's a little different way of approaching it. You don't need to have like tension in your entire body like you do when you do like a release on the high bar. You know, like you're doing like explosive movement, you need the entire body to be in muscle, like in a tone, to keep keep the connection. In handstand, the majority of the body is quite relaxed.
Yeah.
You know, you straighten your legs, you point your feet, but the core, everything should be kind of without too much effort. So this is something I focus on. You know, I whether it's from the nose or from the mouth, I'm not that extreme about it, as long as you continuously breathe, and from the side it shouldn't look like you're breathing. It's very, very gentle.
Love it. I appreciate that. Thank you. I think listeners will appreciate taking turns. And one of the things I emphasize is taking turns where they can focus on the breath as they do other aspects of the skill, rather than it just being a part of the handstand. And so they can actually take the time to understand, okay, what is my breathing pattern? Am I holding my breath? Am I breathing too heavy? And so they can actually focus on just what the breath looks like and kind of get that under control for higher level development. But spotting techniques, you know, gymnastics is heavily engaged with spotters in terms of skill development, getting hands-on so that somebody can understand the movement pattern, so you can kind of build the mechanics and the body can take over a little bit. What are your thoughts on working in partners and working in groups and being able to have someone from an external perspective be able to manipulate you into positions? Do you think this is a helpful technique in being able to work on handstands?
So it's look, a good spotter, there's nothing like a good spotter. Okay, like that's how we learned. You know, our coach put us in the hand. I don't remember the first time I did a handstand. You know, the coach puts the feet above the hands and pushes a little down. You resist, and somehow, eventually, you have a handstand. So yeah, a good experienced coach can make a big difference. But most people don't have access to a good experienced coach. You know, and the majority of the practice is done on your own. You know, so if you meet your partner once a week, it's not going to be enough. You need to still. So what I focus on in my workshop is I basically use heavily the wall as an aid, as a teaching aid. Not because it's better than a coach, but because it's accessible. So you know, I teach how to use the wall and how to receive feedback from the wall, and learn how to balance, and also learn how to improve the technique by getting feedback from the wall. And then taking that knowledge home and applying it through practice. I also, I sometimes said, okay, I'm not here to teach you handstand. I'm teaching you how to practice handstand, and then you're going to learn it on your own, because there's no other way. You need to put the time. You need to explore it and discover it on your own, because what you feel when you're in your hand is yours. Nobody knows what's going on in your body and what you are feeling while you're inverted on your hands. This is a very subjective experience.
Absolutely.
So this is that. I also use partner work a little bit in my workshops, but the problem with that, it takes time to develop spotting skills, even if it's basic, even if it's handstand. Not to. So I also teach a little bit how to spot and how to help. But it's a combination. But the majority of my workshop, especially the beginners, are wall drills, very particular wall drills, in which I really focus on the right way to practice, not just kick to the wall and just wait for the time to pass and push. It's more, where is the pelvis? Where are the shoulders? What are you doing with the breathing? Back to wall, chest to wall, all have different ways to communicate different aspects of the handstand. So by practice in different types of drills, first of all, it makes it interesting. So you can build like I teach maybe 20 different drills, and then you can build a practice. You don't have to do all the drills every day, but you can, for example, choose 4 of these drills, do 5 of each drill, which will last about 40 seconds. So you have time under pressure and doing handstand. So you're developing capacity and strength. And then during that time, you're constantly focusing on details and technique. So this is the general approach I take towards teaching in the context of the workshop. I meet people once for 6 hours. So the goal is to give them as much good information that they can use in practice, and not just good theoretical knowledge. Because that you can find today in the internet as well. Good handstands and good theoretical description of the handstand. It's pretty clear.
Sure.
Could be confusing, but still relatively clear.
I really hope I can make it out to one of your seminars, Yuval. I've been dying to spend more time with you and to absorb as much as I can to be able to apply not only to my own handstands as I continue to.
It will be an honor to have you there.
Yuval, when is your next intensive?
I usually have an intensive in the fall and in the winter, and then one in my town here in the summer, kind of like advanced intensive, for people who have taken intensive with me in the past. So it's kind of like only advanced practitioners. But yeah, every few months I try to do the intensive, but the majority of the year it's kind of I try to teach a workshop every 2 weeks. Mostly in Europe now, because it's just so easy for me to move around here and still come back to my family and not getting jet lags and travel. But yeah. So most of it is in Europe. Yeah.
How many kids you have, Yuval?
I have two daughters.
All right, just like me, I have 2 girls as well. Are they aspiring athletes, gymnasts, handstand performers?
Both of them are competitive. One of them is a high-level synchronized swimmer.
Oh, wow.
And one of them is a rhythmic gymnast.
Oh, amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So they don't really let me do handstand with them. They don't want to listen to their dad, but they can do a handstand, and it's still amazing for me to sit there on the other side watching them compete, and much harder than competing, I tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the 2 sports that have probably the best line out of any other sport. So I'm interested to see how that continues to develop with my kids too, that are a little bit younger. But
I tell you, it's challenging, like to be an athlete who has kids who do sports. You have to. It's always like, how much can you push them, or when it's too much, when it, because
yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna be that dad that constantly is on their ass about, all right, come on. I don't really feel like I'm like that though. Like, I let my kids just be like, if they want to do it, they want to do it.
Yeah, but
Don't,
then you go to the gym, and then what the coach said is, then it's like, okay, well, no, don't say anything. No, but no, it's really great to see them and competing, and seeing the process that they go through, and it's nice, kind of the
I love
circle.
it. Well,
Yeah.
Yuval, we won't take up too much more of your time. Just one quick bit of advice for Mike. What should he prepare himself for come this weekend?
No, come curious, and maybe change some habits, and enjoy it. It's like that. Like, it's not, like I said, it's not about it's not a workout, or like an intense weekend. It's not the intention of the event. It's really about focusing on technique and discovering things, and then maybe taking certain things, like I like also, looking for these aha moments. Like, you go to a workshop, and you need one thing. It's like, okay, it's can really make a difference, because you're an athlete. I'm not gonna change your body over the weekend, but if you can take some of the ideas and apply it in your handstand and improve it by that, that's what I try to do in the workshop. So it would be great to meet you in a few days. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
it'll be a lot of fun. But I know Dave will say, if I do anything well, make sure that we credit that to Dave, and then anything that's done poorly,
of course,
one of my other
He
mentors
didn't listen.
is now Chris Gotti as well. So anything bad is on Chris, and anything good is on Dave.
Works for me. Yuval, before we get you out of here, some quick questions for you. Okay, I'm hoping that the first one's an easy one, but what sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Gymnastics.
There we go. Thank you.
Easy. That was easy.
Exactly. We have a running tally with all of our guests, and I think I'm still ahead, but the weightlifting crew had a nice little run. So thank you for.
I have such very basic level of weightlifting, so I wouldn't even.
Yeah, I've been doing it for over 10 years now, and I have a very basic level understanding of anything with a barbell as well.
One interesting sidebar note, though, Yuval, maybe you'll find it curious. When I was growing up as a weightlifter, we had a local guy that would come and visit our gym. He was a friend of my coach, and he actually competed at the World Championships for Israel. He was a Jewish American guy, and he had ended up getting his Israeli citizenship. And then he was a pretty solid weightlifter, and decided to represent Israel at the first at the Maccabi Games, and then he lifted at the World Championships. So I was just thinking about that while we were talking, and I thought, oh wow, there's a point of connection.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I have very basic understanding. Back in the day, as a gymnast, we didn't do, the closest I had my coach on my shoulders, and we did some squats. That was, nice. That was the
yeah,
the closest I got to lifting. And then the rest was, body weight, the rank sets and parallel bar sets and the handstand push-ups and the planche work,
absolutely.
Kind of like the bread and butter of gymnast, at the beginning of practice. And yeah. And some
all right.
circuit training on Fridays.
Oh yeah, we still try to do that a little bit in our programming. We have some of that circuit training for the athletes out there that want to get a taste of it. Question number 2, any guests that you think would be great for us to interview? Somebody that you have in your world or you've come across recently that would be a good interview for us?
Well, there are a few people I met more from the fitness body weight. So, you know, like some people like Simon Atta. He lived in Vegas. He also did some performance, and today he teaches calisthenics. He'll be super interesting to talk to. I just met this guy, Andre Strong. That's his name on Instagram, Ukrainian guy. One of the strongest guy I've ever seen. You know, really ridiculous stuff. Super nice guy and interesting to you know, to talk more from the street. Comes from more street workout, not so much CrossFit. You know, people like that, I think it would be interesting to add to your podcast.
We'll add them to the list
but
for sure.
I have some more people, but the people do come to mind.
No, those are great.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of guys that do like straight leg planches on fingertips and things like that. Like, how is this even possible? Like the strength levels that just don't even make sense.
I was in Bali now, so I trained with Andre. And the guy is, you know, he comes every day and has his, you know, all day he does like YouTube videos. And then in the evening, he has like 2 hours, he goes for it, you know, just plunge, full plunge, and 10 times goes to handstand. And then he straps up like, you know, 40 kilos and does like handstand push-ups with, you know, it's like ridiculous kind of like over the top strength. But it's interesting, you know, like the dedication and the attention to details that they have specifically in something that's so specialized in gymnastics. You know, like we used to do, you know, just whether most people are not ring specialists, but you use the ring strength as kind of your one of the ways to prepare your body for everything, not only the rings. You know, so it's interesting to touch, you know, to meet people who go to the extreme in that these fields and have so much knowledge also on that.
Well, we feel like you're one of those people, Yuval, who have taken handstands to another level. The way that you appreciate the basics and then expand on it so that the everyday person can appreciate it, learn it, and gain an appreciation and a love for it themselves. And I can't thank you enough for being on. I like I said, you know, you're someone that I really look up to within this space, and keep doing what you're doing because you do just such an incredible job. Take care of my boy Mike this weekend. And like I said, I hope we can run into each other sometime soon, especially now that I'm in Europe for a little bit.
Fantastic. Yeah. And if you're here for the next 3 months, if you hop to Paris, I'm around. So
absolutely. We'll see if we can make it happen. Where can people find you, and let people know about the seminar you got coming up this weekend, and maybe some others so they can come and hang out with you?
So the, you know, Instagram, my Instagram page is where I do most of my, you know, my social media and, you know, advertise my workshop. I have my also Facebook page, Yuval on Hands, and my website, yuvalonhands.com. So these are no online program yet. So you know,
sounds good, man.
Project.
keep working on it. We'll make sure we send it out when it's ready to go. And for all the listeners out there, please be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for more services and upcoming events. Check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Mike Service. On behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Mike Service. And until next time, thank you all for listening.